Let's see. Okay, so when do you want me to start?
You'll know. Just give me a second, right? You'll know. All right.
Are you recording now?
Yeah, I'm recording. You'll know when to start.
Hello and welcome to the Split Screen Podcast, episode 8. I've just had a nice spontaneous guitar introduction from Craig.
There you go.
That was very nice. I've already told you I've got a bad cold, so if you hear a sipping, slipping noise, that's because I'm trying to drown my sorrows with a lemsip. Oh, just like there. So I guess this week's talk was kind of inspired by the Games Media Awards. We had the nominations for that, and congratulations to anybody listening that was nominated for that.
They're dead to me.
They're dead to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, apart from that, it kind of made me think about what the games industry is actually about, especially the games journalism industry. And I don't know if industry would necessarily be the word I'd want to use because it makes it sound like it's being crapped out in a factory
by child labourers who don't have a proper education.
That's right. It's like you can get fair trade organic journalism, but it's the sweatshop stuff that people buy. Tesco value journalism.
Get paid by the word and how many stickers you stitch.
It's like 50% of the facts, and it comes in a really bland package. But for some people that gets the news done, so it's happy enough.
Yeah, but yeah. So I think also like industry journalism. Occasionally, you'll tell by the tone of the voice when to use speech marks around them. But on the whole, we're going to be positive. This could become a very negative little wine fest from two bitter, unloved, yet brilliant writers.
Surely not. We're some of the most optimistic people I know. But one thing that interests me, and I guess also kind of annoys me, but we'll glance over that bit because we're being positive, is that I have about 5 or 6 websites in my RSS feeds, and what happens is that, say, somebody announces a game. So, I don't know, Borderlands 2 is a good example. And so you get this thing from Kotaku saying, hey, Borderlands 2's been announced. And then you get Joystick saying, Borderlands 2's been announced. And then you get official Xbox magazine saying, guess what, guys? Borderlands 2 has been announced. And so this is where the games industry becomes a kind of PR thing, and journalists become this primary point of contact between the publisher and the player. So instead of them, coming up with hard-hitting features the way, I don't know, a traditional newspaper journalist does, they kind of regurgitate press releases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and that made a lot more sense, I think, back when it was strictly magazines, and these games would take so many months before they would come out, and you would then, the games writers, they would tend to be like old British colonial ship sailors faring off to faraway land to bring back spices, so there would be a bit of lag, but they were your only portal to to find out that stuff.
And they only came out once a month as well. And so, I mean, I remember having, I think the first magazines I got were like Mega Drive Advanced Gaming and things like that, and then the official Sega magazine. And so, they all kind of had their own exclusives, but they all covered different things.
But it would be a substantial offering that they would bring. I mean, you could get a magazine and can sit down and have a really good, afternoon. There'd be a lot of considered pieces in there. There'd be a lot of time you could tell was taken into it, whereas now it's kind of drip fed out 24 hours a day.
Yeah, it's instead of getting a decent in-depth feature, you kind of get all these newslets that don't really tell you anything.
Well, it's about trying to break up a feature over multiple days so that you can keep coming back, or you break it over multiple parts, and then you can have different ads on each page and all those tricks come into it, whereas you didn't need to deal with that too much before.
Well, it never ends, because you get the first look, which is normally some guy writing up the teaser trailer that he saw. First of all, you get the announcement that there's going to be a teaser trailer, so that's a teaser for the teaser trailer. Then you get the teaser trailer, which is teasing you the full trailer is going to come out, and then generally around E3 or somewhere you get the full-length trailer, and then you'll get a first look from a website or magazine, which is probably, reviewing that trailer. Then you get a preview, then you get a hands-on preview, and then you get a kind of final code preview, and then you get a review, and then you also get a multiplayer review later. So it's a post-review, and then
the multiplayer review, you get silence, just definitely silence, and then it's the teaser for the DLC.
The DLC, and then the teaser trailer for the DLC.
I mean, BioShock Infinite, they just did all of that, and it was insane. Where you had this website with just a countdown on it, and then it revealed a fake name, and then people get excited over they called it Project Icarus. I think that was their internal development name for it. And then they revealed that Project Icarus was in fact the sequel to their most popular game. Crazy. And it was kind of a bit, I think when you go so heavy on previews, you're kind of asking people to invest a little and maybe imagine what it's going to be like, and they might then get the wrong impression,
Yeah, well...
set yourself up for a fall kind of thing. I mean, that happened to me. I was like, really? BioShock again? Alright, fair enough. I mean, sure, it'll be good, but...
You're getting unnecessarily excited?
Yeah, a little bit.
But, I mean, if you have something like, say, Skyrim, they did a teaser trailer for it, right? With just, I forget, what is some old actor going, well, there are dragons in this land. There are lots of dragons.
Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson's in everything now.
Liam Neeson was in Fallout 3?
He was.
He was in that, wasn't he?
He was in Ponyo, which I watched yesterday as well.
You've got to go outside the vault, so you have. There's loads of things to do, so there are.
Yeah.
I swear to God, there's loads like...
He's the same bad father in everything he's in. Like, even like in Star Wars, he sort of fails with Obi-Wan a bit. Anyway. Skyrim.
Yeah, but with Skyrim, it's out in November, so I don't really care about a teaser trailer in April. I want to see one gameplay trailer with a nice wee, theme music over the top, showing you some of the stuff, bit of CG, bit of live action, and then that's it. And then, a preview, and that'll do me.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a problem with what the games company themselves are putting out. Like, I completely understand, and I'll watch trailers for films and get excited. When the Batman trailer came out, that's fine. But I don't want to then, you don't have people analysing it frame by frame for weeks on end, and then there's well, actually you do have that, and it's terrible. They shouldn't do it, damn it.
Well, this is it. I mean, the problem with this kind of churnalism is that they've got the same information that we do, and so I don't need somebody to talk me through frame by frame what happens in the Skyrim trailer. That's the job of my eyes. That's what they do. They interpret visual information. I don't need somebody to turn that into words. Yeah,
even then for BioShock as well. This was all on the official website. I mean, these aren't coming like exclusive. Well, we'll get on to exclusive, but they aren't distributing that kind of stuff out through the press anyway. I mean, they pass it on and then they just get a kind of repeat of it all. It's more channels out there. But you can find everything that's in a magazine about a game or everything on a website, on the official website for the game anyway.
I guess the two questions are, what's the value of this kind of journalism? If you can go to a publisher's website and see what they're saying, why does everybody else need to repeat that or even draw your attention to it? Why can't you just have a wee one-line sentence saying, hey, this is up now?
True.
And secondly, is this stuff worth reporting? Because you have all these gobbets of news every day, you get these really bland things. I think the one that struck me as being particularly boring, if that's not a bit of an oxymoron, was whenever they changed the weapon limit in the PC version of Duke Nukem Forever, which is one of the most boring things I can possibly imagine. It's like they've upped the number of weapons you can carry from 2 to 4. Like, great. I don't own that game, so that's irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, that's a patch note. I mean, that's just a patch note that's now then become a story, an article, a piece of journalism. It's not journalism when it arrives in your inbox. Okay, no. I mean, there's news sections on all these sites, but it's not really news.
Yeah, but that's the kind of thing where you might, if you actually say you actually owned a copy of Duke Nukem Forever and you started it up, that's the kind of news you'd want to know then. But
that's true, but even then, it'll auto-download. Like that kind of stuff just happens.
It would be enough to just start playing it again. That says, "Hey, you've got 2 weapons now."
I think
enjoy yourself.
You turn on my 360, and I can find out all the latest games that are out there. With the new DLC for Black Ops, I can see that in the game. I can buy it within the game and watch a trailer there, and it's going to be the same screenshots.
Well, that's it. I mean, if you play Black Ops every day, you've already seen that information. So why would you need that? It's like whenever you're playing a game on Steam and you click on Team Fortress 2 and it shows you the TF2 news. That's probably a good place to put that news, not smeared over every single website. And so maybe a better role for this kind of games news would be, I don't know, announcements for new things or unexpected things or previews and interviews and that kind of thing that a developer can't interview themselves. So
if you had, say, a feed where you had then the PRs for the various publishers, they would write their copy and it would just appear in this section of your site. You just go there. You're not rewriting it. I mean, because a lot of the times they're just changing, they're putting a funny title on it. They're putting a couple puns on the images. But it's, it's the same copy. They're just rewording it like they're, 12-year-olds and doing a book report or something.
You can only say so much about the adventures of Piggy and Ralph and Lord of the Flies before everybody overlaps content.
Okay, so the thing that gets me is that there's all these sites are kind of fulfilling the same role, or they're fighting for the same role, which is to be your one-stop shop for all things games. And there's no difference really between them because they're all chasing the knee-jerk reactions.
Well, the consequence of that is you get a total lack of personality. You have all these kind of generic, bland warehouses stuffed full of news, but because there's no opinions in there, I mean, a good example of someone that doesn't do that is, like, say, Rock Paper Shotgun, who did you see about this new Razer laptop they've come out with?
Nope.
Where they're competing with Apple for the world's most expensive laptop badge. So they've got this laptop called the Razer Blade. It's about $2,800. It's really thin and it's super powered. And so everybody's going, "Oh, here's this really cool Razer laptop." And Rock Paper Shotgun were like, "Yeah, it costs about £2,500. Who's going to buy that?"
Yeah.
But it was nice that they had their kind of own original opinion on it. But another thing is now that, as well as getting this carbon copy news release stuff, you get kind of carbon copy indignation. Like, for example, whenever Blizzard announced that Diablo 3 was going to be an online-only game, everybody got riled up about that. Like, this was somehow unexpected, even though their last game, which is StarCraft 2, was online-only. And Diablo 2 was a game I pretty much played exclusively online, so it may as well have been online-only. But I don't know if people felt like they had to make a stand against it, even though if somebody had said to me, "What do you think's going to happen with this?" I'd have said it's probably going to be online only.
Sorry, I'm still laughing when you said make a stand against it. Like, it's something important. Like, first of all, like, it's something worthwhile talking about, and then it's something worthwhile getting upset about. It's like, what's that?
Don't break the illusion that it's not important. Otherwise, our podcast becomes even more meaningless.
Well, no, but it's like, what business makes business decision to make funds to continue operating. That's all it is. Really? The company who dominated the world with the largest pay monthly is trying to find another revenue stream within one of their most popular games. Oh, shock horror! We've done all this. We did this when StarCraft 2 came out, and it was just the one race in the campaign.
Yeah,
we did all. It's the same complaining. It's a different story, but it's the same complaining, same reactions. There's a short-term memory where people can go, "Look, you basically wrote this and got angry and upset about this a while ago." Whether it's that, or whether it's the Call of Duty not having dedicated PC servers, and there's that Steam.
Is life really so short that we need to worry about these things?
Yeah, but is that people genuinely getting upset? I'm not saying people shouldn't be angry about it, or are they just getting angry about it because people are talking about it, and it's that kind of weird snowball effect where
I don't know.
Just because everyone's talking about it, people think it's worth talking about.
I mean, surely the kind of people who are really hardcore PC gamers don't even care about Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, well, that's
there's loads of games like I don't know, Battlefield 2 and Bad Company 2 and Counter Strike and Team Fortress that are far better than Call of Duty. Why would you concern yourself with that? What's the point in complaining against something that you're never actually going to play?
I guess because that's one of the things that we've not touched on is trying to gauge what is the public consensus on a matter, and it's like, well, is this stuff that lives in the comments of all of these articles, or is this something that lives in the forums and all the kind of boards and stuff? You've got those little communities going on, or is it because you need to write, like, who are they writing for? Like, when you put something up saying that Diablo 3 is going to have you pay real money for hats or whatever, like,
for hats.
what's the audience that they've got in mind? Like, who are they trying to inform? Is it the guy who already knows, who's angry about it? Or is it the guy who's going to buy the game? Or is it for people who've never heard of it?
I don't know. That's a fair point. I don't know who that's aimed at.
Because, to me, it seems like it must be that really clued in, self-identifying gamer. The person who follows this kind of stuff, who knows the difference between Kotaku and Gamasutra,
Yeah.
So, that's... I imagine that's not the widest audience you could be reaching, but they must be going for it for a reason.
I don't know. I can't think of a way to bring this in, so I'm just going to ask you: what do you think of review embargoes?
I understand them completely. Like, if you're trying to do a marketing scheme, you want to have a sort of shock and awe. You can't have a really slow phased introduction of something, because it's just not gonna. It's gonna get lost in all of this noise. You want to create the impression where you get off. You come back from work. On the side of the bus is the big poster for Dead Space 2, and then you go on and you go on your websites, and it's all Dead Space 2 reviews, and you're more likely to go out and then pick up and buy it at some point. So
okay,
I get that.
So it makes sense from the point of view of the publisher. But do you think it's actually doing the readers a service. I mean, if you have something like, say you've got a game like Duke Nukem Forever, which had a review embargo until the launch day, right? So a lot of people pre-ordered it or went out and bought it on that day, not having read the reviews, whereas it was pretty clear that people were going to say, this is actually a bit poop.
Yeah. So the first thing there, like the embargo was set in, like, what's the earliest at which you can talk about it? There's nothing in the rules that says you can't put up a review a week after. But people say, oh, it's late. Well, they go, well, maybe this guy's got 1 week more experience. He'll have the first week when everyone was like disappointed with it. He'll have that experience to go on, and he can then maybe refer to that. God forbid. But rather than trying to write.
That's silly to say you don't have to put it out immediately, because if you're a website and you want to get the largest possible audience, it's the same thing. Like I think I reviewed Forza 3 about 18 months after it came out. Probably not very many people read it. But we obviously aren't bothered with that kind of thing. But it's something worth bearing in mind, that if we were trying to make money off the site, not that we didn't try, we just tried it first and then realised we wouldn't. But if you're trying to make money off it, you need to get. Sorry.
I just said that you can sponsor the podcast by emailing.
Oh yes, you can sponsor the podcast if you want. Even if you want to just give us food. If Lemsip want to sponsor us and give me a big pack of Lemsips as the winter months roll in, that'd be great. I'll be happy to tell you what my favourite lemon-based paracetamol drink is. No sweat. Lemsip. Damn, that's a tasty lemon drink.
That's a call back to the Smint. Damn, that's a minty sweet.
Yeah, I remember the Smints when it was particularly good. I guess again, our talk about embargoes ties into this idea of the game journalist doing the marketing job.
Well, I think like the embargoes, like it breaks down into a kind of further where sometimes the games company will only deliver a press copy or a review copy a week before the embargo. So the journalist is kind of placed in that pressure zone of you've only got a week or 2 weeks to get through this. And a lot of these journalists will have multiple games to get through, multiple reviews to write, and these things can last 20 hours easily.
The other one they do now is for something like the new Halo game or the Gears of War game, is they send them all along to a hotel. You don't get a review copy. You get taken to a wee hotel and then you play through the game in its entirety. While the publisher leers over you like a Cheshire cat, and then you get to go and write your review before the embargo. If you want to say whatever you want to say, I'm going to blow my nose with the microphone on it. So just talk away. Just so you know.
That's okay, that's fine. If we were in the film industry, that you'll have press screenings, and that's fine. But when you have these press events for games industry, and they take them to a hotel, and they'll put them up in the hotel for a weekend, and they'll have all their meals taken care of, and it'll be nice comfy couches, nice big screens, the optimum time to play it. It is kind of getting closer to trying to get people to drink the Kool-Aid and indoctrinate them a little bit, because you're in this wonderful positive environment with this wonderful positive game with all these positive people saying positive things. And
it's that kind of crowd mentality as well, where I remember reading all the reviews for Bastion, which was one of the most recent games I did, and also I was interested because it was under embargo. So my review for Strategy Informer went out the same day as everyone else's.
So how long did you have when you got assigned it to when it went up?
Well, the problem was that I was quite busy with my day-to-day job, and life got in the way. But I had about a week worth of playing it, and really you could have finished it in 10 hours. So there was no struggle for me to finish it in that length of time. Okay. So I didn't feel like I was really pressurized to do it. That kind of thing made me think about what a reborn games journalism would look like. So if you go back to the days of where people weren't PR outlets and people weren't afraid to say what they said, and whenever you got a bad game got a bad mark, so all of those film tie-ins and things got absolutely slated because they were all these terrible side-scrolling platform games. Yeah. So I mean, what if we were to be really pretentious? Not that I've ever seen this done before, and come up with a games journalism manifesto. What kind of things would you include?
Oh, can we talk?
You'd forgotten about that, hadn't you?
No.
Had you forgotten about that?
No. Can we talk briefly about manifestos? Right. People need to stop writing manifestos first of all, because it's one of the things like we've been talking about sort of the major outlets for games, but I tend to read, my RSS feeds tend to be smaller blogs that I read it. Yeah. And if there's a site Critical Distance, and that tends to have the slightly more critical thoughts, and I think that's certainly something that we would like to see more of. I think we both enjoy that.
Absolutely, especially if they feature us.
Yep, but there's a danger there where sometimes they then go into this manifesto academic language where they end up saying a lot, thousands of words, just thousands of words that say absolutely nothing, or that just end up restating the same, pompous question that they asked at the beginning, just in a slightly different form. Remember, because we actually sat and tried to read through one, and we were just getting so confused.
Oh, it was word soup. I hated it. My brain switched off after the first paragraph. What was the site? Was it Action Button? Was that it? And there's this thing went up saying, "Oh, here's Action Button are back," and they've written this manifesto, and it was all these terrible. It was all these terrible things they said, like, we need to. It was kind of like, let's kick out the 16-year-olds, and let's leave it only for the professionals. Let's stop having, like, say, user reviews and game FAQs. That was deemed unacceptable. And all I could think was, Who is to say whether a 16-year-old is better than you at writing or not? Because whether or not you receive financial incentives to write your reviews has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of your content. I mean, since I started doing freelance writing for Strategy Informer, yes, I write more frequently, and I guess that improves the quality of the writing. But it's not that there's been a dramatic peak, or if I write something for Split Screen and don't get paid for it, it doesn't mean it suddenly becomes worse.
No, exactly. It was just full of all these odd caveats, and the problem is that they'll set out all these fanciful guidelines and then just not follow them.
Yeah.
They'll just have, like, the most inane banter that just goes on and on and on. Sorry, but that was just a that's because that kind of stuff is what I would like to do. I'd like to see that critical thought. We'll touch on this, I guess, when we talk about some of our favourite pieces of writing.
Yeah,
but. I think we kind of touched on it earlier as well. We're touching everywhere, forward and back. But
right, and less of that.
If, like, the first rule, right? First rule, know your audience, and I don't think people really know who it is they've got in mind when they're writing. And
I don't know who our audience is. I think it's mostly my friends and parents.
Well, I think we're starting to see. We know the stuff that sort of gets passed around on Twitter. Like for the graphy stuff that I've done. Mainly the people who have at least contacted have been other writers and then people in games development. It's not been people who are wanting to know. It's not people who just want to play the games,
Yeah.
I'm writing for the sort of audience who, for either write themselves and therefore must like reading it, even if it's reading their own stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of who I write for a lot of the time.
I think a lot of my stuff, I've kind of got two different types where I write stuff for people who have never played any games before. Like the one about games to convert your girlfriend and games with friends and things. So it's trying to de-nerdify it a bit.
Yeah, and that's what we used to
de-scaling the
do.
games journalism kettle.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we used to do when we used to write for the student newspaper.
Yeah, but that's because we knew what the audience was.
We were writing for university students. We knew that they would pick up the paper and they'd maybe have it in their hands for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then they would just toss it back on the desk.
Yep.
So you can, so if you had a point, you make it quick.
Yeah.
And then for the vast majority, it was people who just flicking through, who weren't interested in games at all. So that was then the three holy words of make it accessible, entertaining, and informative.
Yeah, they not that we've written any manifestos before, apart from that one that I wrote for the student. But that was different. That
that was just a general style guide, writing guide.
Okay, well, since we've decided not to write any manifestos, what would you put in your manifesto that you're not going to write?
Just because everyone's talking about it doesn't mean it's worth talking about.
That's pretty good. I think my first one would be be critical. Don't be a fanboy or a sycophant. Don't write as if you're trying to get a job from that developer, and don't just think about what it's like now. Think about what you're going to feel like a year from now. You kind of need to go drill through the hype.
Another thing they do, it's fun to write. We like it. We like to think of ourselves as skillful writers. Sometimes that gets in the way, where people have these beautiful constructs set up, where they're going to take you on a fantastic journey, and on that journey they're also going to tell you whether or not Duke Nukem Forever is any good.
Yeah.
Like there was this one on Kill Screen where this guy, and I heard someone refer to it as like the Hunter S. Thompson of video game reviews, which if that doesn't make you vomit, then
I feel a little sick, but that might be reflux from the sip. Not that I can slag off our sponsors, but it could well be that.
It was 1,000 words high school story / analogy.
Oh, I hate the ones where they tell you their life history. There was one
Yeah.
time I met this girl and she was so beautiful and she was just like Halo. No, stop what you're doing.
So, and like, I admit, like, you sit down and, like, you can write that and it'll be fun to write and you'll be proud. But then you go, this doesn't really serve the purpose, where it's just a lot of fancy writing, again, that says nothing at all. Now, we can spot the tricks. Like, we can see it coming up. Like, the first paragraph will set the theme. Like, you saw your Bastion review.
Yeah.
Like, on your Bastion review, in the game Bastion, there's a narrator throughout, and he has a southern simpleton kind of lilting speech. Is that right?
He's not a simpleton, but he's got a kind of southern drawl to him. He's like the old guy in Song of the South telling you a story, like that kind of thing.
So what would he say? Like, a little.
Oh, it'd be something like, "Oh, the kid woke up and the whole world was gone, and he just moved on without him," or something like that.
No, we knew that, like, that was going to get used by people. That was going to become a device in their reviews, and you quite wisely. And I remember you telling me that you didn't do it.
No, I could smell that coming a mile off.
And then if you go, like, pick a random Bastion review, like, whether it's, it'll be in the text. I'm not, it's fair enough. You can throw stuff into your subheader, or you can throw, your captions, whatever. That's a free for all. But in the actual copy, like precious words are getting squandered on it. And I guess it's probably because they aren't printing on paper.
No,
Where, like, we agonised for ages trying to get the word count down to get the stuff to fit on the sheet.
Oh, that reminds me of the one I did. I wrote a review for the Lost game via Damus. It was 800 words. And
oh, God.
It was like, right, you know that 800 word you wrote? It's now got to be 400. And
yeah, 800 words is a lot.
That was some of the best writing I ever did, when I only had like 4 paragraphs to describe the game, and then went down from 400 to 300, and every joke had to have a point. There's no point making a joke if it doesn't tell you something insightful. That's totally wasted space. That's
it. It's only funny if it's true.
Yeah, because sometimes I'll come up with, like, oh, here's a really good joke to make at the start of a game review, but then you think, well, what's that got to do with anything? In the same way, you can't just roll out a silly simile if it doesn't actually elucidate what you're trying to describe.
And I think we've gotten, once you realise that this is the habit, and maybe you're using it a bit too much. I know I've done it, like in the Costume Quest review I did, where I kind of pointed it out that some people will just pick all the little, they'll do a lot of wordplay on the game, and so the game in Costume Quest you dress up. So it's like, oh, it's a mediocre game, thinly disguised as something more. Or, it's like trick or treat, more like trick or catastrophe.
More like trick or crap.
Yeah, like, turn the lights off and pretend you're not in. And like, that's the kind of stuff. And it's like, well, you wouldn't do that if you were like an art critic.
Yeah.
Well,
to be fair, if you're reviewing a painting, there's not as much to riff on, is there?
I'm sure they could go, man. I'm sure they could go for words and words.
Just hold themselves in, yeah.
So I think I made a point in there somewhere.
McDonald's, I'm loathing it. So since we've discussed some of our pet peeves, what other ones do you have?
Oh, there's the second to last paragraph. Because you know what I mean by the second to last paragraph, right?
Do you mean the obligatory negative paragraph?
There we go. That's the problem. 'Cause I think some people they feel that if a game is good, you can't say anything bad about it without it sounding like it's a bad game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was something I read something Kieran Gillen said on Twitter, which is he said the amount of negative stuff you say in the review should be proportional to the score you've given the game.
Really?
Which is perhaps a bit analytic, but it's a good point.
I disagree completely with that.
Well, I disagree too, but I can see where he's coming from. He said don't slag something off for 7 or 8 paragraphs and then say, well, all that aside, it's really good.
Yeah, that's true. Again,
if you like, say you spend the whole time on, say you have something like Deus Ex and you really, really enjoyed it, and you really thought that the boss fights in it, which seemed to be quite controversial, really, really ruined the game. You shouldn't spend half the review harping on about that if you then came to the conclusion it was really good. I think that's what he's trying to say. Don't write a negative review and then say, oh, but it's still really good, because you've done a disservice to that.
Right. Well, sometimes... Okay, I see that, but sometimes you'll get... And it's the phrase niggles aside will come up in some variation. Niggles aside, or, that being said, and then it will just jump, and you'll get to me, like, that paragraph should be the sort of review, because I think you could, a lot of times that it'll be concentrated and you won't have all the waffle around it.
Yeah.
But there's certain things where, if it's such a small niggle and it doesn't affect the game overall, don't mention it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. People try and cover all the bases. You don't need to. My other manifesto thing: pick 1 or 2 ideas about the game and write about that. Don't worry about trying to cover everything. If you don't talk about multiplayer, then it wasn't worth talking about.
Well, my latest one was the Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet one, and one thing I didn't do was really mention anything negative about it, because I didn't really think there was anything negative about it. And the fact that I gave it whatever arbitrary score it was, an 8.5 or a 9, that tells you that I thought it was really good. But obviously it wasn't, transcendent. It didn't make me want to convert to the religion of the aliens. But apart from that, it was still really good, and I don't think much more needs to be said than that. Likewise, I didn't actually cover the multiplayer, so to me it was a bit extraneous. It's like one of these Xbox Live guidelines where thou shalt have leaderboards and thou shalt have achievements, where it doesn't really matter that much. One thing I really, really hate is, apart from the use of the phrase "words cannot describe," which every time I read that I think, no, words can describe it, you're just too stupid to think of them.
Oh yeah.
The other thing is
just buy this game.
Yeah, just
do yourself a favor.
Do yourself a favor.
Like, just buy this. Like, if that's what you're saying, just print that phrase.
Just buy it.
Yeah. If you fully advocate it.
Why mince words? Nobody wants to eat a plate of word mince. You want a bit of word sauce there as well. No, don't mince your words. That was like one of those really bad analogies that I make that actually, if you break it apart, makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I would quite happily consume that, but it might make a reappearance. I don't know if it's sitting well with me. I think we've salvaged that. Moving on.
It's no different to a word burger, really. It's not as well held together. The one I really hate is the section review, which is the one where they go, right, it's the first paragraph, so I better make a joke. Okay, second paragraph, onto the story. What's the story? What's the plot? And then
you play as.
Yeah,
you play
as a young barber that finds himself questioning his existence. It gets transported into a 2-dimensional side-scrolling shoot-'em-up game. Barber Wars it's a bit like Galaga, only you're playing with a mushroom instead of a controller. You must draw comparisons to everything else. Then you get, right, enough talk about the story. What does it look like? Next paragraph. What is the music like? Next paragraph. What is the gameplay, which I'm doing in inverted commas, like? And then the next paragraph. But what's wrong with the game? In the last paragraph. Should you buy it? But you've already read the score at the top, so that paragraph's totally pointless. Make a quick pun, and then away you go.
Oh, all right. Puns. All right. People don't understand what a pun is. It's when one word sounds similar to another word, and then the humour comes up in the ambiguity of what someone said. But when you write it down, it's no longer a pun. It's just a bad bit of wordplay. And the vast majority of the stuff out there, again, you see it on the 360, those two smirking idiots tend to have like the really cheesy ones as well.
No. They might be smirking, and they might be idiots, but I'm also sure that they're nice.
I'm sure. Okay, well, the guy who writes the lines under it, where it'll be like
I don't know if they do all the writing. I hope they just do the delivery.
All right. Well, when Portal 2 came out, there was a headline I saw a couple places: Portal Combat. Now that doesn't actually make any sense.
No, since Portal's a non-combat game.
But they're trying to pun off of Mortal Kombat. Why?
Not good.
Who knows? But it was there, and people do it. Rock Paper Shotgun do that as well, and the main reason why I can't read their stuff.
So yeah, Eurogamer do it for every single one of their like reviews or previews. I don't know who does them, but they're excellent. It's really excellent wordplay. Comes out of nowhere. It broadsides me every time.
We do it on our site. It tends to be in the subheader. So like Super Meat Boy, you had a really good one where you said "well done."
Yeah,
that's very clever.
And that's the time to get that pun out of your system.
And we've committed like horrible crimes, like when we were at the Shun newspaper. Do you remember the Prince of Persia one?
Yes.
So the headline was "Fresh Prince of Persia." All right, okay, tenuous, but we can bring it back with a subheader.
Yeah, which is, I think it said, in Mesopotamia, born and raised, Alan never fails at the games that he plays.
There we go.
Which is possibly my favourite subheader of all time. It was just, I really enjoyed that. I don't care if nobody else did. I really don't care.
Now, at no point does the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air actually come into anything to do with the game. But the joke was there, and we went for it. But we've learned, and I'd like to think we're a bit more dignified now, a little bit more refined in our punning.
Sometimes it's just all about the joke, you know. Oh no, wait, that's something we said never to do. Oh, Craig's gone offline. Oh dear me, call's ended.
Yeah, so we've done terrible puns, but we're more refined now. We've learned from it.
Sometimes the ends justify the means. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of evil to do a lot of good.
Yep, those are phrases. I agree.
those are words of value. No, nobody knows the in-joke where every time we set up a new article on split screen, there's always a placeholder, and all it ever says is, these are words of value. And then sometimes the words of value come, sometimes they don't. So, speaking of words of value, what are your most valued pieces of writing?
Right, so 3 came to mind. One of them is like a little video which I'll embed into the blog post. And it was Ryan McLeod, who's one of the guys from Videogame / Consolevania, and he did this fantastic take on hype, which is something that we spoke briefly of in the whole preview cycle, and how people work themselves up into a tizzy, and it's just fantastic. He says who's to blame, and it's everyone and us, but mainly us. Another really good one I enjoyed was Sean Malloy. It was an essay he wrote. It was on 1UP, but I think it might have been for EGM or GFW or something. And it was on The Sims. And this was like the essay writing that I do enjoy, where he was writing about his first kind of serious relationship, or as a sort of coming-of-age sexuality relationship type story. Very short, though, 500 words, if that. And
well, how long does it need to be to get your point across?
But it had this nice... It used The Sims in a very nice way, where it wasn't like, and the game is what got me through it. It was just very subtly and quite, like, I want to say realistically done. Because when some people write about it in these essays, like, say, walking down the aisle to one of the themes to Final Fantasy, it seems a bit contrived. It seems a bit forced, and a little bit like you're trying to make games to be something more than they are, which is a good, they're a good thing, but they're not the best thing.
I guarantee I will not be walking down the aisle to one of the themes from Final Fantasy, just because I know I wouldn't be allowed, and secondly because I wouldn't want to, even if I was allowed. Some things are just more important than that music.
The third piece that I enjoyed, it was a guy called Jason Foer writing about the game's developer Jason Roher, who did the Passage game, which is a favourite of ours.
Oh, everybody likes a good Passage. But
this was a piece he wrote. It was either for the New Yorker or Esquire, I forget. And it's quite a long interview. But he went and spent 3 or 4 days. And it helped just because this chap, Jason Rohr, is a fantastically interesting guy. And it was just wonderfully written. And you'll enjoy it more than I've described it. I realise I haven't actually read it in about 3 years, but
that's an ironclad guarantee that you will enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Well, the problem was that I didn't prepare anything before the podcast. I didn't actually think of any. I just kind of put a blank heading. I was like, right, yeah, think of something. I do actually really enjoy Rock Paper Shotgun. I think it's probably the best game site out there in terms of writing, where they don't bother doing reviews. They have like a very much opinionated piece called What I Think, where they just talk about stuff like that. They do really good feature articles, and I really like everything Kieran Gillen does, just in general. It really saddens me that he spends most of his time reading comic books now. But I think some of his favourite pieces where he did a review of Left 4 Dead, and all he did was just talk about all the experiences he had for about 2 pages, and he went, right, there you go, that's Left 4 Dead, that's why it's good. And it actually summed it up perfectly, because he was talking about how every encounter was different, and that was perfect. But my favourite one of his, where he reviewed a furniture pack for The Sims 2, and he said, it was like Christmas fun stuff, and he said, look, all of these items are available for free if you go to the website and download them. And he gave it a score of like 0, and he said, if you can't think of a better use for £10 than this, please give it to me, because I know I will. I also quite like, you introduced me to the spoof Twitter accounts. They're always quite good for a laugh. Like Peter Molyneux.
Yeah, so Peter Molyneux, take on Peter Molyneux. But he just pitches these fantastic game concepts, which are so close to being reality. It's kind of scary. So I wrote the one I remember is a game where you must hold onto your mother's hand, let go for more than X seconds, and it's game over.
And
if that isn't like the modern video game, where you walk the line, and if you don't walk the line, we'll make you walk the line again. You know?
I've just fired up my Twitter client to see if there's any good ones. There's one from today saying, "You have one bullet. Once fired, it enters slow motion and can take hours to reach its target. Things you do from then on affect its direction." And somebody else has replied and said, "What if you couldn't change its direction, but had to convince your target to stand in its path at the right time?" Have you got a treat for me at the end of this podcast? Have you got some surprise you're going to spring?
I guess I wrote that in the doc, but I don't remember what it is, so maybe that's the surprise.
Well,
and it just ends.
I have a thing here saying games journalism puzzle. Perhaps the biggest puzzle is
yes, I remember now.
Say? Okay.
Do you know what the games journalism is a perfect anagram for?
No.
Urinal logjam.
Is that meant to be poignant?
I think if we say it again, it might be poignant. Urinal logjam. No?
You know what? I'm stunned. I can't think of anything to say, funny or otherwise. So, I think my bag of eclairs is calling, and also obviously another couple of Lemsip. This podcast was brought to you in association with Lemsip. Damn, that's a lemony drink.